Queen Ingrid of Denmark, a figure of grace and serenity, was born on March 28, 1910, in the regal surroundings of Stockholm's royal palace. Her life, deeply rooted in the traditions of Europe's royal families, was anything but ordinary. The youngest daughter of Sweden's Crown Prince Gustav Adolf and Princess Margaret of Connaught, Ingrid grew up surrounded by the splendor and duty inherent in her royal lineage. Her upbringing was a blend of the strict formality of the Swedish court and the warmth of her mother's British roots, a combination that crafted her into the beloved queen she would become. Ingrid's childhood was marked by both privilege and tragedy. Her mother's death when she was only 10 had a profound impact on her. Despite this early loss, Ingrid developed a strong sense of duty and compassion, qualities that would define her role in the years to come. She received an education befitting a princess, studying not only courtly customs but also delving into the arts, languages, and social issues. These early experiences shaped her into a cultured and empathetic individual, ready to step onto the international stage of European royalty. In 1935, Ingrid married Denmark's Crown Prince Frederik, a union noted for both its political significance and romantic nature. This marriage became a symbol of unity among the Scandinavian countries during a time of great political uncertainty. Becoming Denmark's crown princess and later its queen, Ingrid quickly endeared herself to the Danish people with her warmth, elegance, and dedication to her new homeland. She became renowned for her charitable work and commitment to the Danish Red Cross, setting the standard for what a modern royal figure should be. Apart from her role as queen, Ingrid was also known for her exquisite collection of jewelry, each piece reflecting her personal style and her family's history. One of the most famous items in her collection was the Khedive of Egypt tiara. In 1905, Prince Gustav Adolf of Sweden married Princess Margaret of Connaught, granddaughter of Queen Victoria, after they met during a trip to Egypt. The bride received this Cartier wreath scroll tiara as a wedding gift from the Khedive of Egypt, a fitting present to mark the beginning of their romance. Crown Princess Margaret often wore the Khedive of Egypt tiara during her brief years as a member of the Swedish royal family, even securing it as a bodice ornament in one of her most iconic portraits. The tiara also appeared in a series of other portraits, including the wedding of her only brother to the Duchess of Fife, with the Connaught tiara as a necklace. After her untimely death, Crown Princess Margaret's jewels were divided among her 5 surviving children, with the Khedive of Egypt tiara going to her only daughter, Princess Ingrid. Ingrid notably wore the tiara in portraits for her 21st birthday and later at numerous events surrounding her wedding to the future King Frederick IX of Denmark. The tiara remained in her possession throughout her years as princess, crown princess, queen, and queen mother, and was among the 2 tiaras she owned, the other being the Danish ruby parure, which I will discuss later. In 1964, Princess Anne-Marie was the first of Queen Ingrid's daughters to wear the Khedive of Egypt tiara at her wedding to King Constantine II of Greece. This tradition was followed by Crown Princess Margrethe in 1967 and Princess Benedicta in 1968, along with the Irish lace veil of their grandmother. Queen Ingrid also continued this family tradition with her granddaughters. After her death, the Khedive of Egypt tiara was inherited by her youngest daughter, Queen Anne-Marie of Greece, who, although she prefers her Greek tiaras for major occasions, has frequently worn the Khedive tiara to various events in recent years. Now let's take a look at another masterpiece known as the Danish pearl poir tiara. Comprising 18 large pear-shaped pearls suspended on diamond arches, the pearl poir tiara was commissioned by King Frederick William III of Prussia in Berlin around 1825 as a wedding gift, along with the pearl poir brooch for his daughter Princess Louise, who was marrying Prince Frederick of the Netherlands. An identical tiara and brooch were ordered by the king 5 years later when Prince Frederick's sister, Princess Marianne, married his son, Prince Albert of Prussia. The pearl poir tiara and brooch were worn by Princess Louise in a portrait painted by Jean-Baptiste van der Hulst in 1836 with her daughter, Princess Louise, who became Queen of Sweden and Norway. Queen Louise was gifted the pearl poir brooch as a wedding gift, but she did not inherit the tiara until Princess Louise's death in 1870, although Queen Louise herself passed away only a few months later. The pearl poir tiara and brooch were inherited by her only daughter, the then Crown Princess Lovisa, who brought so many jewels to Denmark that, if they were all laid out on a card table, you wouldn't see the fabric beneath them. As a wedding gift, the crown princess received a stunning necklace and earrings from the Khedive of Egypt, which she notably wore together as a marital parure at the wedding of her son, Prince Karl of Denmark, later King of Norway, to his cousin, Princess Maud of Wales, in 1896. Upon her death in 1926, Queen Lovisa bequeathed the pearl poir tiara, brooch, Khedive of Egypt parure, and a smaller pearl brooch to the Danish Royal Property Trust, reserving them exclusively for the use of Danish queens. The next custodian of the pearl tiara was Queen Alexandrine, who notably wore the parure for an official portrait. In 1937, Queen Alexandrine lent the pearl poir tiara to then Crown Princess Ingrid for the coronation of King George VI in London. Before Queen Ingrid acquired the floral egret tiara, the pearl poir tiara and the Danish ruby parure were her only two options for events outside Denmark. Queen Ingrid also wore the pearl poir tiara for events related to her three daughters' weddings. The last appearance of Queen Ingrid in the pearl poir tiara and the Khedive of Egypt parure was at the grand banquet hosted by the Shah of Iran and Empress Farah to mark the 2500th anniversary of the Persian Empire in Persepolis in October 1971. Now let's move on to the next masterpiece, the floral egret tiara, said to have once belonged to Grand Duchess Anastasia Mikhailovna of Russia, mother of Queen Alexandrine. However, the floral egret tiara was owned by the opera singer Lauritz Melchior when it was purchased by King Frederick IX for Queen Ingrid in the 1960s. It consists of three separate diamond floral sections that can be mounted on a frame as a traditional tiara or worn in the hair in various formats. Queen Ingrid debuted this piece at Margret's wedding in 1967 and lent it to Queen Margrethe from the 1980s, bequeathing it to her in 2000. Queen Margrethe rarely wears the floral egret tiara in its traditional form, preferring its versatility. She remarked, "I like to wear it a little differently from time to time, and I think my hairdresser enjoys doing it that way too." It is one of her favorite diadems, and she even wore it at Crown Prince Frederick's wedding in 2004. And to conclude today's video, let's admire the stunning Danish ruby parure. Currently, the Danish ruby parure, which consists of a floral tiara adorned with diamonds and rubies, a pair of versatile chandelier earrings, a necklace that can be worn in various configurations, a brooch, a bracelet, hairpins, and a ring, all studded with diamonds and small clusters of rubies to give them a more substantial appearance, was crafted for the famed coronation of Emperor Napoleon in 1804. Napoleon allocated funds to his marshals to ensure that their wives were properly adorned, and one of them, Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte, acquired this parure for his wife, the former Désirée Clary, who had once been engaged to Napoleon. The parure made its way to Sweden when Jean-Baptiste and Désirée became King Karl XIV Johan and Queen Desideria of Sweden. Queen Desideria left the parure to her daughter-in-law, Queen Josephine of Sweden, granddaughter of Empress Josephine of Napoleon, who passed it on to her granddaughter, who would become Queen Lovisa of Denmark. In 1898, Queen Lovisa presented the tiara as a wedding gift to her daughter-in-law, the future Queen Alexandrine, who inherited the rest of the parure after Queen Lovisa's death in 1926. Despite being one of the most historic and significant parures in the Danish royal family, the ruby parure wasn't showcased to the public until Queen Alexandrine wore the bandeau tiara for a series of portraits in the 1920s. In 1935, Queen Alexandrine gifted the entire ruby parure, which at the time included a low-wreath tiara and two large corsage brooches, as a wedding present to Princess Ingrid of Sweden when she married Crown Prince Frederick of Denmark. The ruby parure became one of her grandest sets of jewels for the rest of her life and was first unveiled at her wedding gala at the Royal Palace in Stockholm in 1935. Shortly after King Frederick IX of Denmark ascended to the throne in 1947, Queen Ingrid had the low-wreath bandeau of the ruby parure reworked using the two corsage brooches to create a more substantial tiara. The ruby parure remained one of Queen Ingrid's most cherished pieces, especially since the first could not be taken out of Denmark, requiring her to have more options for the numerous formal events involving tiaras during state visits. The ruby parure was never loaned to other family members and remained in Queen Ingrid's possession throughout her life. Queen Ingrid wished for the ruby parure to stay with the Crown Prince and later King, leaving it to her beloved grandson, Crown Prince Frederick, in 2000. Less than 4 years later, the future Crown Princess Mary wore the ruby parure for the first time and continues to wear it to this day. Which piece impressed you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments.